I've had some thoughts about will and the nature of will, the nature of surrender, and how it relates to therapeutic work and spiritual growth. How, what part does will play, if any, in uncovering what is basically unconscious material, unconscious drives? Is it possible, and can we harness will to make change, given that a lot of the time we're dealing with mysterious, with a mystery of sorts? How does the will work in engaging? How do we engage our will in that way, positively and successfully, to move forward? Can I just add one more thing to that?
Mm.
Which is, and is the will, is the will harnessed by our ego structure or our heart?
The answer is inherent in the question to some degree, isn't it? It's about surrender, it's about the heart, it's about the ego, it's about what it is that we do in relationship to the three primary centres of the human being, which are mental, emotional and willful or active.
Mm-hmm.
So we have thinking, we have feeling, we have willing, or the action energy centre, which is located in the base chakra and the pelvis and the hara. So the key point is surrender, but the other key point is the heart, and you mentioned both of them. So you have the answer, in a sense, inherent in the question, because if you act from the will divorced from the higher chakra characteristic of surrender to the divine, or from the heart, the place of longing for the divine, from a sacred spiritual point of view, then the will is simply ego-serving. So it takes a lot of effort, it's very tiring, it's not exhilarating in and of itself, and in a sense it's purposeless, because whatever it brings about will be some kind of self-indulgence or something which you mistakenly think will bring about some sort of joy.
Uh-huh.
There isn't any joy in the ego. I mean, the thing about the illusion of egocentricity is that there's no inherent joy in any real sense in it. There's no happiness as such. It may be there like this and then gone. It may be momentarily pleasurable because we want something else, and we always want more, and that's the desire body, and when that's in relationship to the ego, it's self-serving, and therefore it's futile. We can only remember when it stops and we want some more of it or something. But when the will, as well as the heart, as well as the mind, is given over in surrender to the divine being, then real happiness comes about immediately, not in some end, not in some outcome or some result.
Are you talking then about an interconnectedness that simply is, and is immediate in its response to each, to the process?
The interconnectedness is the business of therapy. It's the business of psychology. It's the business of a holistic approach to the body-mind, because there's certain cultural and personal and individual and collective malaises in the present time. I mean, one obvious one is that males tend to be disconnected through the heart, so they can act from the will, which is divorced from the feeling, but may include the mind. So there's a kind of bypass going on. Women tend to be out of touch with the strength in the lower chakras, the groundedness, the idea of being full-bellied or fruitful or in some way strong. You know, for example, that's a collective malaise, and therefore also an individual one. So there's all sorts of permutations through the three primary centres of the human being that, when they're all active and then connected through the solar plexus, through the throat, from the spiritual chakras to the base chakra, from the human grounding in the world to the transcendental spiritual reality, the unity or the oneness of that is unassailable. I mean, it was always a continual flow. It's only from the repression or from the ignorance of whatever of those have been unacceptable throughout our life that this one continual flow in the organism is compromised. So I'm talking about that, but I'm actually talking about something further than that, which is you can only surrender when all of that is aligned. You can only then reach with your whole self to the spiritual chakra characteristics of, say, spontaneity, surrender, spiritual bliss, truth. All these spiritual aspects are only available when all of this, body, mind, is aligned. And when it is, of necessity, then the will rightfully belong to the divine. And so rather than have a futile attempt at happiness or joy, for example, and with a kind of, an effortful movement or path to some goal where I will finally feel better or happy or have a positive outcome, the sacred spiritual endeavour through the will is immediate. It's not in the outcome or in some other moment. It's in and of itself the spiritually enlightened characteristic of being absolutely present without any attachment to what anything does, wherever you're going. So even if you get up, you're not getting up in
that the will then? Is that
and we're
still the
calling
will?
that, you could call that the surrendered will. Or the will that is rightly aligned to the total energies of the organism. I mean, that's how it should be, or that's how it naturally is, let's say. That's how it is when you get out of the way of it.
It serves.
It serves. Yeah.
It serves.
Yeah.
Okay.
It serves truth, and it serves who I really am. That's the important thing. You're no longer struggling against what you really are. Your authenticity, your reality, your divinity. And you're no longer caught in the realm of space and time. You don't do anything for some reason or purpose. The fulfillment is actually in the present moment. In every moment. Not going anywhere, not coming from some other place.